Greenbelt environment has a great potential to support the country and in meeting its overall carbon footprint commitments for achieving our sustainable development goals. In an era of developing micro Silicon Valleys, India stands to gain much more from the green-built environment. To deliberate on this theme, we will now have a panel discussion. I invite our panelists on stage, Professor Montu Mani from Indian Institute of Science, Mr. Ajit Chordia, Chairman, CII Indian Green Building Council, Chennai Chapter, Ms. Nirupa Shankar, Joint Managing Director, Brigade Group, and moderating this session will be Mr. Rahul Valavalkar, President, India Energy Storage Alliance. Over to you, Mr. Valavalkar.
Good evening, everyone. I think we have a quite diverse panel here and very important topic when it comes to green build. And again, I'm Rahul Valavalkar. I think most of you may know me more for the work on energy storage. But just as a backstory, I started my career at Tata Infotech, actually working on energy management, and have been involved significantly in some of the activities around the green buildings and looking at integrating various technologies, right from demand response to RE100. So it's a honor and it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to actually learning a lot more about what latest things which are happening, because some of my experience is now slightly outdated. But this is an area where I think sometimes it feels like it's a deja vu, that sometimes we get in these type of a conversation and it looks like, okay, did really 20 years pass by? Or but at the same time, I think with some of the materials, some of the technologies, and especially the cost side of things, I think there are so many things which have changed, as well as from the management side. One of the challenges which during earlier days we used to face is that, yes, there are a lot of things where maybe energy efficiency or some of the green building approaches, those are cost effective. Maybe you can have 5-year, 7-year payback. But is it important enough for a CEO to consider it in a top 10 priorities as an organization? And many times we used to lose out on many of the implementation of these ideas in practice just because no one were paying enough attention to it. With this, actually, I would like to now not take much more time. I'd request each of you to start with and present your background, your experience in this area, and what you think that a platform like Envision, where we are bringing together academia and industry, we can address some of the challenges to try to make it into the mainstream. So, Ajit, you would like to start?
Thank you, Rahul. I'm Ajit Chordia. I'm the Managing Director of Olympia Group, Chennai, and I also chair the Indian Green Building Council, the Chennai chapter. So, my journey with the green began with my stepping foot in the field of real estate in 2004. When I was looking at when I moved into real estate, I was looking at how is it that my product could be different from what is being offered by others. And there was intense competition from the pan-India players, and I was a new player. And at that time, one of my classmate, he is my consultant also. He came with the concept. He said, "Ajit, you go green, and I assure you 50% additional rentals." So the 50% additional rentals didn't come, but then the concept of green we had latched on to, and that did pay us good amount of dividends. So I am a proof here. I can literally say how the advantages have been there by bringing in the technologies, and what Rahul was telling, the payback and other things. Yes, we have experienced this right from 2004-05 onwards, and even today, unless there is a compulsion for me, I would definitely go with adopting technologies. Before I proceed, give my perspective on this green build, I would just like to add few lines on the IGBC. The IGBC is, as it stands for, is Indian Green Building Council. So the green building movement in India started around 2003-4 with and formally being establishment of the CII IGBC. Earlier, there was a collaboration with USGBC, and the Leeds program of USGBC was what was being implemented here it was spearheaded by IGBC, and then looking at the India-centric requirement. So IGBC evolved its own program. Today there are almost 33 rating programs for each sector, be it for, earlier it was just for a commercial building, residential, new building, existing building, and then it moved over to schools, institution. You even have green village rating systems. So SEZ, factories, metro rails, for each one of these categories, the separate rating program has been has been evolved. And the important to me, the rating program as far as green building is just not concerning power, water, which is there, what we're talking about, net zero water, net zero power, but it goes right from the site selection, passive architecture, the conservation of soil, and you have, of course, the innovation which you're able to build in, and the scoring parameters are there. But to me as a builder, there are two things which is most important. One is power, and the second is water. So yes, I definitely look into ROI when I go for, whenever there is someone comes me with this is a technology which we would like to pay extra, I would definitely look at what is the payback period. If the payback period is not there, I generally don't go even for operations. And I look at low-hanging fruits, anything which is up to about 3 years to 5 years, that is something for us to grab. And even with respect to cost, as far as larger buildings are concerned, I don't see this as a challenge. In fact, today it has been proved that the green buildings which are there, which are implementing and bringing in the technologies, in fact, the cost comes down. This I realized as early as in 2005-6, when people were telling that the green building is expensive, you would end up spending about 6 to 7% or 8% more, maybe on a particular item, maybe on high COP chiller or a plant manager, or investing in high performance glazing. The cost would have been extra. But believe me, even at that time, the consultant themselves were not aware what would be the performance of the building. Today, the energy modeling and the whole market has evolved much, much more. I remember that I have provided for 6 chillers, but we will go with 4 today. In case we require, we will add 2 more chillers. I mean, this was the way in which the whole thing had evolved. Similar thing would be with the generators. And in the last 10 years, 12 years, our buildings which are there, we have seen this space which is there has been lying empty. In fact, we moved over from air cooled to water cooled. We didn't have to remove any of the air cooled. We just added water cooled chiller in the spare space available. We were able to bring down the power consumption further. So this is recently in the month of September, along with the IIT Research Park. IIT Research Park had done a commendable job on the energy storage which was there, and how commercial building could move over to 100% renewable energy. So that particular paper was prepared by them, and we were happy, IGBC was happy to lend its support, and the paper was jointly launched, and we had taken that particular paper across our members which are there across the country. And even the recently concluded IGBC Green Conference we had here, the IGBC Congress in Chennai, even there we had Mr. Anson coming and presenting the concepts which are here, which have been implemented. So while I myself have been, an investor in renewable power for the last 15-20 years, but then the innovative technologies and how IIT has implemented this, it is something which has been very, very interesting, and we definitely look forward to having that implemented, because current norms which are there, I was discussing with Anson that at least in the state of Tamil Nadu, the renewable power you are having on a month-on on month we are able to adjust the power under the 4 banking slots. But then going forward, it is going to be every 15 minutes, whatever is being generated, at the same day it needs to be consumed. So to that extent, whatever technologies which are there, which have been developed, will become very, very important for most of the buildings which are there, because almost every occupant who comes today is talking about the carbon footprints. He's talking about what is the carbon footprint. Are you net zero? Are you committed to net zero? Are you a signatory to science-based technology initiatives? So these are the things which people are talking about. So I'm pretty excited to be a part of this particular gathering here, and I would look forward to learn and then take it forward. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you very much, Ajit. So Nirupa, handing it over to you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nirupa Shankar. I represent Brigade Group. Brigade Group has operations primarily in South India, Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad. For us, I think one thing what we realize is the construction and built environment is we're very much part of the problem. I think because the whole building and construction industry, I think some stats were shown before, but they account for about 39 or 40% of all CO2 emissions. So I think one thing we realized is that whether you like it or not, cities are going to develop, construction is going to happen. So while you are part of the problem, you can try and make sure that your impact on it is as low as possible, and you can try to build in as responsible a manner as possible. So for Brigade, we've been getting our buildings, we've been building green buildings from, I think, 2001, 2011, my bad. So all our office buildings have been green, either platinum or gold or silver rated. We try obviously to do gold, but I think all our buildings are either at least gold rated or silver rated, and some of course are platinum. I think the World Trade Center here close by is our property, and that will be IGBC platinum rated or LEED gold certified. So apart from doing or building green buildings, I think what we've done from a tech perspective is that about 7 years ago, for the reason you mentioned, there are a lot of great ideas out there, but when it comes to implementation, a lot of the startup founders don't have a year, and they have a great product, but if you come and tell a builder, let me implement this for you, it's always a challenge because it's not a plug and play solution. They have to work with our softwares, they have to work with our processes, they have to get their APIs, entrenched into our APIs. So all that has to happen. And what I noticed was there would be startup pitches at least twice a week, but then nothing would happen after that. I would say great product, great idea. If it's related to energy management, I would send it to the facility team, and then nothing would happen. So about 7 years ago, we set up an accelerator called the Brigade Real Estate Accelerator Program, Brigade REAP, and we had a completely separate team, like a 7-member team, just focused on prop tech. So technologies related to real estate and property management, and funnily enough, not because we were looking for it, 30% of them happened to be in the sustainable space. So whether it was clean air management, water management, energy management, building sewage treatment plants without the use of chemicals and electricity, all sorts of technologies started coming out of that program. So we would look at least 300 companies a year, and we would select about 10, and we would work with them for 5 months intensively, but continuously for as long as they wanted, and give them live projects to work on, and then take them even to our competitors. You can't keep technology to yourself if you really wanted to grow. So we worked closely with these startups to take them to get POCs in Brigade, but also take them to competitor industry players, because we're all part of the same fraternity, and we want the whole industry to build responsibly and sensibly, because we're all living in these cities, right? You don't want to live in a city that where air pollution levels are causing health problems to your parents and your children. So we've been working with startups like that. We've now mentored about 70 companies, and we are continuing that mentorship. We do about 10 companies a year. And recently we have launched something called the Earth Fund. It is to fund startups in this very space, not just energy, but anything related to, so the tagline for the Earth Fund is tech for greener, smarter cities. So the idea is development will happen whether we like it or not. How do we build in a more responsible manner? So we want to invest in tech that will better our cities, will have solutions for whatever air quality issues, energy related issues, whatever different related issues. And the fourth point I want to mention is that we also have a chair. We've sponsored a chair with IIT Madras. That initially it was for construction technology, and now we're working with Professor Koshi Verghese to actually move it into sustainability. Those are some of the things we're working on. We're also trying to see how, currently we also use renewable energy for all our office projects. So whatever little I think builders can do, we should be doing, and happy to explore the rest of the questions through this discussion.
Okay, great. So coming now from the commercial side to academic, as well as maybe for rest of the population. So again, Professor Mani, you have done a lot of work on looking at technology application also for rural and other areas. So would love you to share your opening remarks, and then I'll maybe ping you more in terms of especially looking at the climate adaptation and what needs to be done where beyond these air conditioned and other facilities where, yes, there are a lot of things can be done as a green, but are there any fundamental changes what we can do to make sure that we can impact much larger population sooner? But handing it over to you.
Thank you and good evening. I'm from the research side. I started working on sustainability in 1996 with Professor Koshi. And my premise looked at attitude as a determinant of sustainability. And the simple logic is that if you have, I think many of us would have lived in hostel rooms. So each hostel room on a wing will have the same orientation, same material, same geometry. But you can actually get into each room and see how it is different from the other by basically depending on the attitude of the occupant. Whether somebody is clean, green, somebody likes to read, somebody likes to music, somebody likes to have the windows open. So you can essentially attitude is a very, is a low-hanging fruit, but not easy to grab because attitude-related interventions are very strong in terms of their impact, right? Then coming to the research front, I look at both buildings and design. And on the buildings front, what we've looked at is one, smart buildings. What we're trying to examine is the use of smart sensors. And with appliances becoming more and more energy efficient, compared to the inefficient appliances, including luminaires or whatever, televisions, the scope to save energy actually comes down, right? So we were trying to see in smart buildings, where does it make sense to put sensors and where it doesn't. And the logic here was, when you are installing all these sensory systems, how do we take into account their energy footprint or their resource footprint? And we found that particularly LED lights, putting motion sensors, does it really make sense? And it doesn't, right? Because the LED lights are really operating at very high levels of efficiency. Their power consumptions are low. But then when you put one motion sensor, we found that the energy payback period, as in the energy payback compared to that required to manufacture and install the sensor versus that the energy saved by the load connected to it, it doesn't really cover up in the life of the luminaire or the sensor, right? So a simple switch will actually work there. Whereas if you're looking at air conditioners or much larger energy consuming device, the sensors make fine. So those are some of the aspects that we're looking at. Lately, we've been looking at the concept of wellness and see how can the built environment contribute to the occupant's health and planetary health. I also happen to chair the committee looking at drafting the code for sustainability in the built environment. And there we're turning the whole thing around. Earlier it was heavily driven by, how much of resources we consume, how much impact we have on the planet. But the whole thing is now changing. Can we build in a way which actually improves the environment around, contributes to the local environment services, contributes to occupant health? And today, with the amount of synthetics that we are living in, including microplastics, forever chemicals, endocrine disrupting chemicals, that also becomes, binding on us to examine the health of the built environment. And then the last part I also look at is sustainability associated with manufacturing, given the fact that any product we take has different geographies involved. And can we assess sustainability in those various geographies? So I think, I'll stop with this.
So thank you very much, and thank you for keeping the initial remarks brief. So probably we'll have more opportunity for doing question and answer. And again, I noticed that there are many people who have taken the green chairs. So again, although it's a green build session, if you want, feel free to come a little bit ahead and be involved in the interaction. I won't force you. If you are more comfortable on the green chairs, please feel free to stay there. But if you want, please feel free to come ahead. So now one question, maybe I think Ajit and Nirupa, since we're talking about green build, and I think some of the rating systems have played a key role in bringing in awareness. But do you think that the way the current rating systems are designed, is it purely focused more on before the build, or even during the operation side, there is any processes which are being developed or any ongoing rating systems are done? Because typically, at least on the energy side, we do see a lot of things that you may have something which is a higher rated in terms of the efficiency, but if you don't operate it or maintain it properly, you could have a complete different results. As a classic example from my earlier days on lighting, you may have actually maybe 10% or 20% of the total life cycle cost in terms of the capex, and most of the time the initial decisions are taken based on the capex. But then on the operating side, there could be other aspects. So how do you see the current systems? Do you think, is it sufficient, or do you think that we need to have some ongoing evolution for taking the rating systems to the next level? And a related question, apart from some of the marketing benefit for it, is there any database which is being created so that we can start maybe even mapping across cities or other thing to try to see how many buildings are there? Is it adjusting some of the parameters, such as say maybe the energy consumption or water consumption per square feet or per occupant, adjust it for the weather conditions or other things, so that we can have a real benchmarking? So are there any efforts happening in India, and can you talk about that?
As far as IGBC is concerned, like what you said, this was there before when the rating system evolved, that it was just get certified. In fact, I would say it was not even getting certified. Developers used to get just pre-certification, and that would not even go for certification, because that would serve the marketing tool, and the purpose is achieved, and they would not take that step forward to get the building finally certified. But today the things are different, at least commercial buildings which is there. So there is the provision which is there now, that once in 3 years, after 3 years, you need to go for a re-rating which is there. So that particular thing is there. But then let's keep all this thing aside. Ultimately, it is the customer. Who's the customer? The occupant. They have to understand, they are the one who are going to force. So the people, at least the large owners which are there, like Brigade and other people, even REITs which are there, so they would definitely look at how their building can score, the points which are there by which they are able to attract their client. We are seeing the last 3 years, every occupant who comes, he is talking about carbon footprint. What is your power consumption? This, when I'm telling you, in 2004-5, out of a dozen odd clients who had come to me, only one client could comprehend. When I tried to explain to him about green saving and all, he said, keep it aside, I hope this thing works here in India. So from then and now, things have moved a lot. Benchmarking is again extremely difficult, because you have different type. You have a campus, maybe an Infosys, they may be working 24/7, it could be 7 days a week, and some companies are working probably only 5 days a week. Some companies, and in a multi-tenanted facility, it could be that 2 tenants could be occupying 24/7, and maybe one could be occupying only for the one shift they may be working. So it's extremely difficult. But then I think the rating will have to evolve, at least like if you look at manufacturing. Today, I'm a dealer for automobiles also. So when we look at the manufacturers, when they talk to their vendors, so they say every year you have to adjusted for material cost, you have to bring down the price by 5%. So something like that has got to evolve as far as the real estate is concerned. As far as energy, because that's the only one which is cost, like what Professor Monto said about, having an LED light and then going for a sensor for that, the payback is never going to be there. So it just doesn't make any sense. So similar thing here as far as the power consumption is concerned, the is a major cost for the occupation of a building. So to that extent, even the developer as well as occupants, both are going to be extremely cautious. And if we are able to demonstrate that we are taking steps year on year to reduce the cost, it serves the purpose. And that is what is going to differentiate between a good building and not that good a building.
So I'll just add to that. So of course, as builders, we get ourselves IGBC rated, but our clients, like Mr. Chodia was saying, are a lot of Fortune 500 companies. For them, because they come from the US or Europe, they understand the LEED system. So everybody wants a LEED certified building. But IGBC is a lot more relevant to the Indian way of building. LEED is very US based, and they expect you to know the source of the products, get green certified products. We haven't reached that stage. We need to get into actually have a database of green certified products that developers can use. Maybe there are green products, but they don't have any certification. Similarly, for operations, you have a well certification also. So I think a lot of occupiers are going for well certified buildings, and that takes care of clean air, monitoring your air quality inside the building, monitoring the energy consumption, water management, etc. The second part is like for marketing tools. We have a building that is under construction, and I said, can you make it net zero? Not from an operational perspective. Making a building net zero from operational perspective is possible. It's definitely possible. You can do a lot to offset. I said, you look at my carbon footprint even during construction, and I wanted net zero from the construction phase as well. So, and I told them, tell me what I need to do to offset my carbon footprint. Do I need to adopt a forest? How many, hundreds of trees or thousands of trees do I need to plant? Let me know. I want to have a carbon or net zero neutral project from construction phase. They were like, okay, we can tell you that, but there's nobody to give you a certification. So if there's somebody who can give me a certification for that, that's whatever said and done. Maybe eventually it's a tough product to sell, and I'm using it potentially for a marketing aspect of it. But if I can plant that many trees, everybody benefits. And the third point is that, the proof is in the pudding also, right? Like, I don't know any benchmarking study in terms of what's done for operationally efficient buildings, etc. But the proof is in eating the pudding, I would say. So there are projects where we are water positive. We have created water positivity in projects where there's water scarcity in the general location, and you can do that with your regular rainwater recharge pits, with rainwater harvesting. So we don't even bill the clients for water. We are water positive. We don't take tanker water. We don't take Kaveri water. It's just water positive. So I would say that is the best way to look at it. The clients are not even paying for water. It's all tapped from that one project itself. So if each large project can be water surplus, there's nothing better, or energy more efficient from that perspective, using more green energy, all the better. There are a couple of other things we can do. We can also monitor the air quality in a certain campus as to what is it outside. For instance, you can create Miyawaki forests, which dense forestation within a campus, and that actually not only cools the temperature within a certain microcosm of the space, it also enhances the air quality within the campus. So these are things that can be easily monitored and that we can show for certain projects.
So Nirupa, again, we work with a lot of MNCs, and we do see that some of these things that both Ajit and you mentioned, it is being driven by them. But based on what you said, I think you're going much beyond what just clients are asking for. So can you just talk a little bit about what is a driver that either you or as a management is looking at Brigade to look at it the way, at least what you have explained to me, it looks to me, I'm very happy to hear this, but it looks like beyond what typically a commercial decision is being made. So what are the drivers for you for looking at these aspects?
I think similar to what Mr. Chodia said, right now sustainability going green is the big buzzword with occupiers, because it is coming top down. Like, frankly, okay, it is a nice thing to do. We all want to build responsibly. Not all developers are evil, and causing part of the problem. There are some of them with good intentions as well. But we are able to see, in the end, you want to build a product that is built to last, not just for till you lease it out, but for the next few decades, etc. And these issues of water scarcity, what kind of energy, the cost of regular electricity could be 10 rupees 50 paisa. Cost of renewable energy is 4 rupees 20 paisa. Or could be, I think earlier they talked about it going even lower. So it just makes more cost-effective sense. Our products are able to command a premium in the market. If you ask me exactly how much more is a green building able to charge in terms of premium, I cannot tell you. But I know that my competitor is X and I'm X plus 20%. It's also becoming mandatory for me to even lease out a product. Now every RFP or request for proposal requires a platinum certified building. I'm happy they're still asking for IGBC because it'll become a real headache if they start asking for LEED, platinum, etc. It is becoming the norm, I would say. And then you try to go above and beyond to differentiate. We don't want to build 4 blank walls, right? You want to do more. Your buildings are there to last for decades, so it's also part of your brand building and legacy also.
Before coming to Professor Monto, just maybe a follow-up question to both of you. You talked about sort of demand coming from the customer side, but are you also seeing from the lender's side any awareness about this, or is there something where is the access to capital for the construction becoming easier if you are following these practices, or are we still far away from that?
Go ahead.
I see, on paper it is there, whether it is HDFC would have raised green funds, and if you look at SBI website, it says that there will be a 10 basis point concession given to a green product. But has anyone really come and offered? To me, I have not come across, number one. Number two, only one place where I have been able to see, I think it is the embassy REITs which are there, or one of the REITs which raised money. So they probably raised as a green bond. So probably if the global investors would have invested, or the impact investors would have invested in that, there could have been a saving to the issuer. So currently the fund raised by the banks which are there, they definitely come probably at a slightly cheaper price. RBI is doing, even in the last policy, there was a paper which had come from RBI which was speaking about green, and they gave a lot of clarifications how to utilize the funds and all. So it's still to evolve.
I would say there are companies coming and saying, hey, we will invest. Like, for instance, IFC comes and says, hey, I will give you green financing, which is maybe 100 to 150 basis points lower than what we could get with the banks. But then they'll say, but you need to invest XYZ in terms of green, or making your building more green. So I'm like, if I weigh the pros and cons, it's not really there. Like, maybe how much I need to invest to convert, say, a hotel into a green hotel would offset the reduction in the lending of the interest rates that I would get.
Combine the reduction in the interest rate plus the benefit on the operating side, isn't it becoming attractive? Or?
So we didn't get into the details because I was like, tell me what your interest rate is. Sure. So I know what I'm benefiting, and then accordingly I can see what I need to do. Okay. And then they were like, no, will you invest XYZ? So we haven't gotten into that, but it's a cost benefit that you have to see. And I think it's a good way. I think green financing is a great incentive. And then I think the second aspect is, sorry, I'll get back to that. I lost my frame of thought. Yeah, I'll come back to you. Sorry, I lost my frame of thought.
So coming to Professor Monto, you talked about attitudes at the individual user level, but I think especially in the energy efficiency side, there is this classic sort of a challenge where sort of the owner versus tenant attitude problem, where for owner it is always better to go for the cheaper capex, and it may actually end up increasing the operating cost. But if the operating cost is borne by the tenant, then actually owner has no incentive or business reason to actually invest in better efficiency if he is not able to monetize it in terms of the higher rent or other things. So do you see anything changing in this side, or is there any particular research or something, tools which have been developed? Like, for example, I know that in UK there was a nudge program for try to encourage some of these more positive behaviors by customers. So is there anything work being done in India looking at the attitude aspect, so that then it doesn't end up becoming a trade-off where someone doing the right thing is not actually making a bad investment decision, but it's a win-win for both?
That's a fantastic question. How do I see whether it's the owner or the occupant today? There is awareness that what can I do to reduce my energy footprint? That is definitely there. And the metrics are also there, whether it's a certification or some measure that I can get. But from a sustainability point of view, it goes much more. Okay, and I'll tell you the attitude part. With motion sensors, what happens is that everyone feels they're saving energy. Do they really get into the calculations to say, okay, I get in and I leave the office, maybe after 20 seconds, the light goes off. Okay. And now there are light bulbs which you can buy on Amazon, which you can control using your mobile phone. Intensity of light, switch it on, switch it off. Okay. Now, people only stop there. They say, okay, I have control, I have freedom, right? But from an occupant point of view, what happens is that when you have a mobile phone, see today, okay, I'll come about from this way. People say that using an email or sending a WhatsApp message is environment friendly, right? But if you really get into the energy running data centers and look at what is the energy it takes for my WhatsApp to go to a data center and then get delivered, right? It's huge. It's huge. Okay, papers are way cleaner than sending a WhatsApp message.
Yeah, we are helping many data centers to become RE100, and we are seeing that they are growing from like 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt, which was a case with just maybe 5 years back, and now we are seeing individual data centers of 100 plus megawatt load. So yes.
Right. So what I'm coming to is that the attitude change is happening. People want more information. People are willing to act on it. Right. Now coming to the sensors again, what people have not really gone into depth to understand is that if I go to my office, if I have my office room which is with smart sensors, I go home and I behave in a similar manner at home. Yes. Okay, I switch on the light in the hall, then I go to the bedroom to sleep thinking it will switch off. Yes. And the hall light is on throughout. Yes. Right? So these behavioral boomerangs actually result in net energy per capita consumption. Right? Now, unless and otherwise we have I would say a capping on how much energy should a person consume per capita. Mm-hmm. Right? And unfortunately today, even with energy efficient devices, our per capita energy consumption is only going up. That hasn't gone down, right? And unless and otherwise we are able to bring that to a decline, whether it is in the built environment, whether it is in our own personal capacities, right? It is difficult to even look at, even if you'll say battery operated vehicle, right? Battery operated vehicle to an extent, you're not having the engine running. When you just, press the accelerator, you're charging or you're discharging the battery. That's not the case with IC engines. Right. And if you look at IC engines and you look at, say, fuel efficiency today, you have to also look at operating traffic conditions. Sure. Right. Bangalore, you're looking at 10 kilometers per hour. Yes. Doesn't matter whether you drive the most fuel efficient car or you're driving a car which is 30 years old. You're still consuming the same on a bumper to bumper traffic. Sure. Right. So I think it's not a very straightforward answer, but yeah, awareness is there. The youth is particularly motivated to do something. We need to give them information and directions to take.
But is it something which needs to be left to each individual organization to do it, or can we do something at a broader level in terms of industry, academia, collaboration to try to make it easy? For example, again, I have been working on promoting electric vehicles for more than 10 years, but I haven't purchased electric vehicle myself. And sometimes people do ask, why have you not purchased? I have a vehicle which is 11-year-old, which has not even yet done 70,000 kilometers, because I live just 5 kilometers away from my house. And whenever possible, I actually cycle to office. So I don't use, and just for sake of showing that I'm green, buying an electric vehicle and keeping it in a basement, I don't think that's the right environmental decision. But we do see many times people say, oh, I'm a little bit worried about the range, but I can use it as a second vehicle and I'm using it once in a week, but I'm buying electric because now I can afford it and it is. So those type of discrepancies are coming up where maybe very something much. Which is not necessarily an environmentally ideal. The way we see it is that in terms of the messaging to the customers, there are so many customers right now we see, especially large corporates who are owning fleets of 100 or more vehicles, and they say, oh, I want to wait for vehicle to get a 5 lakh or 6 lakh or 10 lakh, whatever is their threshold, that price point vehicle, but they have vehicles which are being run for more than 200, 250 kilometers per day. So every day they are running a IC engine vehicle, they are actually paying a lot more than what it would cost to buy a 10 lakh or 15 lakh electric vehicle right now. And on the other end side, we see this happening where people just for drive to do right thing, they are buying it without realizing that maybe there is not net environmental benefit. So is there any way to address this in terms of education or awareness?
It's again a fantastic question. I think the access to information is there today, right? So if a person is really inclined, can go to depths of making the right decision. The second is again peer pressure, the lifestyle related changes. That is extremely difficult to, even in food and diet, I think that is there. You know, the debate on junk food has been going on for hundreds of years, right? So it's similar to that. And this concept of greenwashing not only comes from hardcore materials, it's also on the behavioral practices. So I don't know where the answer is, but yes, awareness, schools are doing a lot. But if we can get the numbers in place, and if we can, like what you're saying, you have it in you to say, yes, I don't want the vehicle, I'm happy as I am. If people can stand by the decisions they take, I think we are good. And that is important. And that is particularly important from a very attitude point of view.
You have anything to add on this point? Yeah.
And so with respect to Nirupama was talking about the carbon going in for net zero. So actually there are enough rating systems available globally which goes into the embedded carbon. So every material which is being used, so the amount of carbon. That is how you come across green steel also coming into the market. So this has been there for quite some time. At least UK, I think BEAM or one another rating program has the life cycle analysis which is there of the building, including embedded carbon. The next, you were asking about the operational cost aspect. If you look at today, the Nirupama will be able to throw more light onto that. Good number of clients are moving towards enterprise solution. So they are no more talking about, I take the building on rent, you pay you fixed rent, and then I will do the fit out and I will pay the electricity charges, I will pay the housekeeping charges. So even the clients which are there, they come, they negotiate the site and they look for an enterprise service provider who says that all in cost, what is it that you're going to give me? Everything is to your account. Electricity is to your account. Maintenance is to your account. Housekeeping is to your account. And interiors are also to your account. I will only pay you month on month. So market is also moving towards that. At that point of time, if the developer himself is a service provider, so the operational cost becomes important. So whatever money he is able to save, it is going to be definitely going to be helping him.
I have one point to add. I think what you were mentioning, and the point that I remembered now, is that government is also doing quite a lot to mandate companies to go green. So, for instance, government has mandated that the top 1,000 listed entities have to start reporting their BRSR report, which is the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report. And annual reports have to have what are you doing from an ESG perspective. So, in a way, of course, lots on solar power, lots on water, rainwater harvesting. So there's lots being done, even mandating from the government. And I believe that, companies like ours and other companies, there are many other real estate builders who have also said, okay, by 2050 or 2060, we will be net zero. I don't know how that's going to happen. And India as a country has said by 2070, they want to get to a net zero or a carbon neutral way. Again, I don't know how that's going to happen, but these are all positive steps in the right direction. And I think eventually, if you don't take these steps, like you asking me why are companies like yours taking, I do believe that eventually we will all have to pay a carbon tax if we don't. So in a way, it's better to get on the right track earlier than later and not be in for a rude surprise. So I think anybody getting on the green bandwagon is at least a couple of steps ahead of the curve.
I'm really glad. I think that resonates with the experience what we have, because many times we do see people have this tendency that, oh, let's wait for another 2 year, another 3 year because the cost will come down. But what we realize is actually the operational experience and the insights what you gain from starting to use it, especially if you have the scale where you are going to deploy it 10, 20, 50 times, is actually much better. Where in terms of the learning curve, what you can learn from adopting some of these technologies early, you can easily get a return in terms of it. In the interest of time, I would like to request if audience, if there are any questions. Yes, can we get a mic?
அது மட்டும் எடுத்து கொடுத்துருங்க. You can speak in this.
I represent here from Ministry of Rural Development, National Institute of Rural Development. I have a question. I think we are talking about net zero, and India has committed to reach about 2070. And in our long-range strategic plan that was submitted in COP 27, one of the strategic plans that is submitted to the forum is urban planning. So in urban planning, what comes is mainly the construction. Apart from what you were talking about, the decarbonization of the transport, other things, urban planning. In urban planning, mainly thing is the government of India is promoting that housing for all is the flagship program of the government. So lakhs of crores of houses is the target. 2.95 crores houses are to be constructed in this plan period. And the construction of these houses, can't we go with this sustainable technology, which is called Laurie Baker technologies, and which are of the less energy centric material? For example, every house is constructed with brick. Brick is being made by burning it. By burning the brick, we are emitting a lot of carbon, and the deforestation is taking place. Whereas we are trying to see for the carbon sinks have to be created, whereas we are going against it. So there are technologies where we can make a brick, a better brick, healthy brick, and a less carbon emitting brick by going for a compressed earthen blocks. So this is being promoted in a very big way, but there is a responsibility on the part of the builders to create awareness about this technology and take up the construction with this type of bricks, so that which is emitting 50% less carbon emission is there. Whereas it is proved that a burnt brick emits a carbon of 70 kgs per square meter, whereas a compressed earthen block emits only 35 kgs per square meter. So what is the difference? So this is being to be promoted by the builder. This we have demonstrated this building, we have constructed the building trying to do it. But our effort is not sufficient. Here the builders have to come into picture and see that this technology is to be promoted. And many of the people are coming and asking this type of building, asking us to supply this brick. But where it is done is by the builders. If the builders can be able to take it up and try to promote this, I think we'll be able to, address that, which is the carbon, the urban planning that is going to be, which we are talking about, can definitely be achieved. Can the builders have got any idea about these technologies where they can go for a less energy centric material and going for the plastering, instead of using your cement plastering, go for mud plastering, like that, where you are telling that comfortable houses can be constructed and sustainable houses can be constructed. This way, can the builders do something on this?
We can all comment.
Sir, Laurie Baker technology is good, sir. What evolved by him was meant for houses. It was very clear, Laurie Baker's thing, that he does not want the house to remain for 50 years. He said, my thing is the person who's going to build a house, first house, he will have to move over to the second house. If he is building, they were good, the designs which are there, I really appreciate. I'd also, when I started work, I went to HUDCO, got all the literature, studied everything which is there. It looks very good. But then when we are talking about mass, when we are talking about speed, it's extremely difficult. So we will have to, like Niruma said, how are we going to reach net zero in 2070? On the one hand, you said 2.95 crore homes have to be built. On the other hand, the government's policy is there, that I want housing for all. So people are all looking at rapid construction. So going in for stabilized mud block, yes, it may be good in a rural area where you have to do a ground floor house where you can dig from there itself, take the clay, add a little bit of stabilizing agent and make a block and go forward. But mass construction today, we are grappling with the problem of everyone has been using Maiwan construction, we call the entire monolithic structure of a cement concrete home. Even the use of blocks are not there. But with the new ECBC rating program which has come, with the energy norms which are there, it's extremely difficult for a concrete wall to fulfill. So how are we going to address that? So there definitely will have to be a balance between, yes, growth and at the same time sustainability. We will have to have a balance. We cannot have just sustainability at one particular, then we have Sri Lanka, everything go organic and the economy collapsed. And so today again, they're probably back to going with they do need organic tea, but I think even non-organic tea also comes out of the Colombo. So there'll have to be a balance.
Just to add, see, it's not that builders don't want to use green construction, but it has to be approved, the material has to be approved by the right authorities, and as Mr. Chode said, it has to be built to last for people buy homes for their children as well. So will it last for that long? Secondly, when we are building 60-meter buildings, etc., these kind of materials may not work. As part of our accelerator, for instance, we work with agri-waste as an alternate to gypsum board. So what they burn in Haryana and all that, there's a girl making agri-waste products as an alternate to gypsum board. We have a couple of companies using plastic waste and creating bricks out of that. But can I make homes, hundreds and thousands of homes? The manufacturing plant may not be able to keep up with my demand for rapid development. Enough research has not gone into how long this will last, this kind of material. So maybe I can use it to build a wall, to make a security cabin, to make smaller homes as a trial. But I can't use it in commercial construction because of the kind of pace at which I need to also build.
So, by the way, we can take this offline because I'm getting a message here that we are running out of time. So again, I would like to thank all the three panelists. No, unfortunately, we are out of time. I think I have been told it's a hard stop, but again, everyone is going to be here later in the evening and we can interact. So, but yeah, I'd like to take this up. This is a very interesting topic and I look forward to actually staying in touch with each of you and try to see how we can take this conversation to the action forward as well as learn from some of the initiatives what you are taking. So with that, I'd like to thank and I'd like to also invite now Anson to join. Okay.